Asta here, and today we are starting a new series in the channel, which is a beginner's guide to secrets of Sosaria and to Ultima Online in general. We are getting a lot of people to never play UO and that don't know how anything works, so I thought it would be nice to have a little guide that goes through installing and setting up a character and how to do the basics of gameplay. So, to get started, first you come to the Secrets of Sosaria New Cities website, and this gives you the Word and the client file that you can download. So you just click on them. My mouse is acting up, so I get a lot of clicks, but you will get only one. And this will give you the code that you will need for the game. Just download the source code for both of them. And you will end up with those two folders. This is all you need to play. In the client folder, you have two different launchers that you can use. For this one, we will be using Tazuo because I like it more, but you can use Classic if you want as well. So here, back to the Secrets of Sosaria, the one important thing that you need to check up before starting the game is in the info scripts folder. You open the settings file. I use Visual Studio Code because that's what I have for work, but you can use like Notepad++ or whatever code editor you feel comfortable using. If you don't know what a code editor is or don't have any, Notepad will work fine, but getting a specific one like this helps to make it easier to see. So in here you have all of the settings for your game. It loads with the default ones, but there's a few that you might want to change. So server save minutes, if you feel like you have issues with your machine, or if you want to have more frequent backups, then it's better to set this to 10. So every 10 minutes it will do a global save and you won't lose any progress for longer than that. If you're playing single player, save character on logout is a must, because this way whenever you leave the game it will save and it will avoid a lot of pain in case you forgot to do a save command on the console. Let's go. If you want less traps, you can do flare trap trigger. I just leave it at the default. No macroing. A macro is when you tell a program or an assistant to do a lot of actions for you very, very quickly or very, very efficiently. I like doing macroing, some people don't, but I would set this to false because this will make getting your character going much easier. If you want your stats to go up faster, you can set the stat gain chance to 10. If you, for some ungodly reason, want them to go slower, you can set it to 50. There's also a delay between stat gains. This game has 3 stats, which are strength, dexterity, and intelligence, and they're very important to determine what your character can actually do and how much they carry and how much spells they can cast. So getting them up is your first priority when you start. You can make this easier or harder if you want to. You can play as a bunch of different things in this game. One of them is an alien, which I definitely do not recommend to new player. So in this game there's a limit in how many skill points you get. An alien can have a whole lot more skill points, but they also lose a lot of skill points when they die and have a couple other penalties. So I would not play with an alien until I am very familiar with the game. You can also play with all sorts of creatures like trolls and vampires and fish people and so on. And looking at this list, you can choose whatever ones you want. I strongly recommend you to play as a human on as your first character. It will make the game make a lot more sense until you are more familiar with it. The game has a hunger and thirst system. You can choose to not get hungrier or thirstier when you are on your home or in an inn or a bank, which is good if you want to leave the character unattended for a little while and don't want them to starve to death. Then actually die from hunger, but there are penalties to it. You can also change how frequent the checks to decrease your hunger and thirst are. I like to leave it at the default because it makes me actually have to search for food, which is an important part of the game. Other things, all of those things can change your gameplay experience dramatically. One thing that I like to do is, like some spells, they have reagents or components that you need to cast, and you can get equipment that reduces the amount of components you need. So you can set this to a higher number, even up all the way up to 100. So if you have 100 of lower reagents cost on your gear, then you will never need any reagents. And if you have like 70% of the time, you will not need reagents and so on. I like to leave this pretty high because I don't enjoy carrying stuff very much. Carrying this stuff very much. I like carrying treasure, which is more important to me. So I usually just leave this at 100. You can, when you find loot in this game, you can get it unidentified. So you will need to use skills to ID it. So this means that half the stuff you find you will not be able to use unless you have the skills to identify them, which is rough, but I think it's a nice part of the game. It requires you an investment to get the most use of it. So I just leave it at the default. You can go all the way down to 10% if you want to, if you don't want to play with those skills, and that's completely up to you. Those things don't matter very much right now, except this one. If you want to play as a thief, you leave this to false because this allows you to actually make money with your stealing skill. Otherwise, stealing is very underwhelming at the moment, so I wouldn't bother with a thief if I didn't have this skill up. Let me get some tea and I'll be back. So by default, you have 1000 skill points for your character, which are usually enough for most builds. But if you want to have more skills, you can set up all the way up to 2000 skill points by setting this to 10. I like playing with the low skill cap because it makes me make choices, but if you're very new and want a less punishing experience, you can set this up to a very much higher value. And another one is the skill gain rate. So the default is very slow, so if you plan on playing this game for a very long time and you want a slow burn kind of adventure, then you leave this at 0. If you want to make faster gains and you want to get to a powerful character quicker, you leave this at 10. So you will gain skills much faster, and it might be more enjoyable to you. I don't enjoy the skill gain process very much anymore, so I just leave this at 10 so I can get to the parts of the game that I actually want. There are 3 settings actually for training dummies. Training dummies are things that you find in cities, and you can use them to get your weapon skills up or your thieving skills up. You can set this to how high you want your skill to go in a training dummy, all the way up to 100. So if you are brand new, I would leave this at 25 and just learn the other skills as I play. This is the same thing for stealing and snooping, which are the thieving skills. You can leave these at the default if you want to. And there is training multiplier, which applies a bonus to your attributes when you are using the training dummies. If you set this to a very high value, you get your attributes very fast and your skills very fast. So, for instance, you could just want to click on a training dummy a few times and get on with your adventure, So you could set this to 100 and it would like be 2-3 clicks and you would max out the skill that is set in here and also get a bunch of attributes from it. But that's entirely up to you. I like leaving these at the defaults. Now we come to the crafting section. I wouldn't bother with this very much if I was brand new because I wouldn't make use of it. The craft menu option allows you to craft a bunch of things at once, which saves you a ridiculous amount of clicking and it's very nice. But I think it's unlikely that you want to start a crafter, even though it's a very good idea to have one. It just takes a lot of time to get it going. You can even get much more resources than regular, setting the skill up. So in this game you can chop trees for wood, you can mine for ore, you can fish, you can skin stuff, and you can make scrolls, you can cook, you can do all sorts of stuff. So you set this up, you have more resources, and those resources will allow you to get your skills up faster. And this one, if you want to macro resources at all, you should definitely change this setting because you absolutely need to macro resources, otherwise this is going to take you an awful lot of clicking and you don't deserve that. There's the monster settings, I wouldn't play with them, except for this one. I think that the paralyzed duration was implemented very recently, and paralyze is a very brutal mechanic in this game because you can be stuck there while monsters are buffing up and casting spells at you. I would leave it at 5, which is usually enough to get my heals procced and enough to keep me alive in fights. But if you want a harder game, you can go to the default of 10. Here the merchant section is important because it dictates a lot of your interactions with NPCs. So you can go to sell all, which means that merchants will sell anything that they normally stock. Otherwise, you might have to search for a long time amongst various cities to get an item that is just disappeared from the economy. So I would set this to true. Also, vendors might not want to buy stuff that they normally buy for reasons of their own or just because the game decided to. I'll set this to true as well. Cloth doesn't matter very much, and here is the important decision. You can have merchants have infinite gold or finite gold. So if you want infinite gold, it will be much easier for you to set up to get your economy going, to get your finances going, because you can just sell everything for them. If you set this to false, it means that you will probably need to go to a few different cities to unload your goods after you do some adventuring. So I like setting this to true because it saves me a whole bunch of time. But if you set it to false, then you can customize how much gold they have at a minimum and a maximum. I like merchant crates. They are an item that you can buy that allow you to just put your crafted stuff or your crafting materials there and people will automatically buy it like after 1 minute or so. This is a very good way of making money for adventurers, and it's something that I enjoy very much about this game, even though it's a bit too strong at the moment. There's a black market option, which allows you to buy very strong items from NPCs. This greatly unbalances the game, and I wouldn't play with this, but you can if you want to. Other things that are important here are how many houses you want to have on your account. If you're playing single player, just set this to -1 and you can have as many houses as you want. Otherwise, you can just use an integer number. Say, I want 10 houses for accounts or something. But since single player, set it to -1 and life will be good. there's a bunch of stuff related to taming and pets. I don't really play with that, so I don't care very much, except for this one. So usually followers stack on top of each other and try to be as close to you as possible. I set this to true, so they spread out a little bit and it gets easier to target them. There is a bunch of stuff related to guards here. I don't like them very much, but I don't have a reason to change them now. And the very important thing, at the very end of the file, you set this to true after you're done reviewing all of your settings. And you save the file and you'll be good to go. So once you're saved, you go back to the Word folder and click on Word. It will open this window. I'm running Windows here, but a good friend of the channel made a Linux install guide and I'll have it linked in the description. It's pretty much the same thing. Just use mono or something to compile the word and you'll be good to go. So this takes a little bit, but shouldn't be too long now. The first time it takes a bit longer, but after that it gets much faster. So while we wait, there's another thing that we can do, which is to go to this website here, razorc.com, and download Razor, which is an assistant that will make playing the game much easier for us. So once you download it, you just click it, you will get your file, you extract it somewhere that you will remember, and then you go to your client folder. I like Tazwell, as I mentioned before, and you open its setting file. In the setting file of the client, all you have to do is make sure that the IP is pointing to your localhost, which is 127.0.0.1 on port 2593. And in the plugins tab, let me open one that already has it, just to make it easier, a bit easier. Settings, where are you? Here. You add it like this. You add the path to where you extracted the exe file, and that will get you your Razor going. Let me copy this to this place. And that's your server. So the server is gone. I didn't save the settings in there, so I still have the warning that I haven't reviewed them. You don't have to worry too much about that. You will have done this actually correctly. And since once the server is up, I have another one up here, so I will jump into that. You go to your launcher, to your Tazwell, and click on Classic UO. If you've done everything correctly, you will get your Razor pop-up. I will explain this eventually, but right now you'll be on the default profile and your game will be up. For some reason I'm using my server is a bit older, so yours will show a different image here, but it doesn't matter very much. A few important things that you can do is log in with the admin account. The login is admin, the password is password. But for us right now, what we want to do is create a new account. So I will make an archer for this playthrough. So just make an account and a password, and the game will automatically create it for you. So since we don't have any characters in the account, we will show up to this screen here where we can customize the appearance of our character. I will be a lady because I am a lady, and we can change our hair color, some of our starting clothing, and our skin tone. And we also have to name the character. This character will be named Tanya. Tanya is a good name. And here there's a few pre-made builds that you can take. All of them suck. So what we'll do is click on custom, and in here you have attribute points that you can spread around. And like if you are a mage, you might want to start with a higher intelligence. If you're a rogue, with a higher dexterity. And that might sound like it makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't. What you want in the beginning of the game is carry capacity, which is determined by your strength. So just leave your strength at 60. And for the skills, there is a lot of different characters that you can play. As you can see, the list is quite extensive, but some skills are much harder to raise than others. So for a first character, what I would recommend is getting your magic resistance and your healing up. So we want to play an archer, so you might think that it makes sense to start with archery, but it doesn't. Archery raises quickly. Archery is called marksmanship in this game, while healing and magic resist do not. Magic resist is very important because people will cast a lot of spells on you, and you don't want to be paralyzed or poisoned in the middle of the fight. And healing, because healing is very important to keeping us in one piece. So let's set it up like this. The third skill here doesn't really matter. And here we go. This is the starting screen of the game. First thing we do is take the volume way down, and you get a greeting screen and a log history for the launcher, and a very small gameplay window. So let's fix that. In video game window, you click always use full size viewport, and you can set it up to how you like. Much better, right? Now we can actually see stuff. I will walk you through how I like to do my settings. I like to always run unless I am hiding. I like to automatically open doors and corpses unless they are empty. I like to use the modern health bar with a black background, and I like to close health bars when mobiles are dead or out of range. A mobile is literally anything in the game. It can be like an enemy, an animal, whatever. A health bar is something that you can drag from your character. So if I was fighting something, I would see their health bar, and when they are dead, it would automatically close, which would save me time. And here we have our lady with all of her equipment. She doesn't have much right now, but we'll get there. I like this, enable drag select for health bars. So we can do like this, and it will take every health bar that's currently on screen and show it up to us so we can target it more easily. We can set up all sorts of macros in here. We'll get to there once we have skills for it. And I only activate chat by pressing enter, because otherwise whenever I typed something it would show up in my bottom corner here, but I don't want that. I want to use the keys as hotkeys for my skills and spells and so on. I'll take this one off because then I can use these buttons for my hotkeys. I will take out hold tab for combat because I want combats to be something that I can toggle with the tab button. And I want to query before attack and query before beneficial attacks on criminals and murderers and great characters. So this game has a law system. So if you steal or murder like a merchant or a person in a town, you become wanted, and you might accidentally do that unless you have this option on, because you attack things by clicking on them and you interact with things by clicking on them. So if I am in my war mode, I look like I'm ready for trouble here, and I double click on NPC, I would start attacking it. So with this option up, I would get a prompt saying, are you sure you want to commit a felony? And that is very helpful. I also like single click for spell icons and enable overhead spells because it tells me when I'm casting a spell. Counters are like a quick bar that you can enable, so you can select how many rows and how many columns you have. And you can put your items here to see how many you have and how easy it is to get them. Or info bar. It's like a little bar that tells us how much health, mana and stamina we have and how much weight we are carrying. You can add all sorts of stuff to this. Like if you are using a faith ability like chivalry or knightship in this game, you can set it here, and it will show you how many resources you still have for that. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense now, but it will some. For containers, I like to double click to loot inside containers. On nameplate options, we will make a new one, and I'll explain what is like. Code base, I'll put containers. This will it tells us the things that we can interact with in the game. Usually when you press Ctrl and Shift, you get it. So I want to have monster corpses, humanoid corpses, monsters, and humanoids except for me. So when we press Ctrl and Shift, we might click on Stay Active, and then all containers and characters in the game will be highlighted for us if we choose the option that we defined. After that, this doesn't matter. Here I like to make my containers more darker. In journal, I like to hide borders, timestamp, and make it anchorable. So we click the journal button and it gives us this tab, which is much easier to read than the default one from the system. And we can change like the opacity of it, we can change the style. Let's make it so you can make it very hard to see if you want to, and you can make it very easy to see. That's it. I like to leave it like this. And this doesn't matter. This is a button that you have to press to disable the system chat. This one as well, because otherwise you'll get annoying pop-ups every time you get a skill gain. Auto loot is extremely useful. I will show. I already have a bunch of stuff here, but you'll click it up, and we'll set it up in a second. So let's finish our layout. I double click to open my backpack, and I get every item that I have here. I have some water, I have a bag with some food, I have a dagger, a torch, and a book. This book is incredibly helpful if you don't know anything about the game. It will tell you like how to move, how to interact with stuff. So you can hold right click to move, and you will automatically run if you have the option to do so selected. So once you have the time, I strongly recommend going over this because it tells you so much. You also get this as a file in your Word folder, I think. No, in your client folder. You have a manual here this is the install manual, and you have a guide, which is the actual same thing as the book that you have in the game. But let's continue. What do we need then? We need a word map. So make it a bit smaller, like this, and drag it around. And now you can zoom in and out and see where you are and where the red dots are, which are the mobiles, the interactables. So we don't have any skills at the moment, so we don't have any hotkeys to place. Let's just make sure we have an understanding of what our character is. As I mentioned before, there are all sorts of different skills to do different things in the game, and you can type bracket skill, and you will get a list with all of them and their descriptions. This is very important because it's usually a very good idea to know what your character is going to do before you start it, because it can save you a lot of time. We'll click new group and make a new tab here called templates or whatever, and we'll start dragging skills to it. We'll get our anatomy, we will get our marksmanship, our tactics, our healing. You see, I already got a few points in the skill just by walking around. It doesn't matter now. And I will want camping as well. I will explain what the skills do once we get to there. Magic resist, magery. No, I want knightship. And this will be a rogue archer, so I will have a bunch of thieving skills with me. It should be remove trap, searching, stealing, and snooping, hiding, and stuff. So you only have 1000 skill points, so you will not be able to max out all of those skills at 100, but that doesn't matter because it will take us a long time to get there anyway. So these are mostly the things that we will focus on. You can lock your other skills to never gain points on them, or set them to go down. Once you have a few points on them, if you are at the skill cap, you can point this arrow down, and whenever you would gain another skill, you will automatically lose the points in that skill. So once we have this set up, we can continue with our journey. Another useful thing to do is type bracket quick bar, and it will open this little pop-up here that we want to open at login, and we can set a few bank buttons in here that are very convenient for us. I like to have find your corpse in case I die. I like to see my wealth and where the nearest magic portal is. There are all sorts of cool stuff that you can do here. You can make spell bars for your various different magics. I like skill list. So I can press this dice and it will show all my skills. If I don't want a skill to show up, I can just go and set it to go down. The easiest way to do that is go on Razor, Skills, Set All Locks, and down. Then I can go to my template, now all of them are down. Then I go to my template and set them to go up, if my mouse allows me to. now when I click the skill button, I only have the skills that I am actually interested in here, and this is a much smaller window than the default skills. But we don't really need to care about that at the moment. Let's set all the skills to go up here. Then we have a wealth bar, and we can collapse this one. This shows how much money we have with us and how much money we have in the bank. Having money in the bank is vital because if you die, you need to pay a resurrection cost depending on how high your skills are. So if you don't have the money there, you will lose some skills upon resurrecting, which is very fucking brutal. So let's proceed with the character. Zahava the Gypsy, you can left click to interact. You can see how she looks like. She has an adorable dress and nice pink hair. And we can click her again and talk, which will open a very large story that gives you some context for the word, and more importantly has a button that allows you to choose where you can start. There are many different cities and all of them are fine for starting, but the one thing you should be caring about is the Hanged Man. This means that you will always be a wanted criminal, that you can never get inside the town, but you have a couple extra skill points to compensate for that. It's really fun to play a red character, but it's not for newbies. So let's get started and go to Britain. And here we go. We are in the game and we have everything set up for us. So this would be a good point to stop this video. Next one I will show you how to set up some basic macros and how to get started playing. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you are having a good time in Secrets of Sosaria, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.